You get used to the pain.
Destiny 2 Shadowkeep has been out for almost a week now. We're almost at the first reset. So I think now is a good time to talk about the moon, the campaign, the mechanics, what I'm liking, and what I'm disliking.
In times of crisis,
Welcome back,
the
people of Earth, to another Embrace Destiny
voice.
video. Kaz PhD here. Today we're going to quickly go through, quickly but thoroughly go through everything that's new with Shadowkeep, with New Light, and kind of weigh back and forth and answer basically two fundamental questions for you. One, should I get Shadowkeep? And two, should I play Destiny? Should I get back into it? So, lots of things have happened in the last week. The first thing that happened, let's talk about New Light. New Light is the free-to-play version of Destiny 2, which includes a lot of things. It includes all of Year 1, which basically includes the main vanilla story, the Curse of Osiris campaign, the Warmind campaign, which take place on Mercury and Mars mostly. All those activities, 3 raids, or 1 raid and 2 raid layers if you want, as well as all the activities associated, all the armor and all the gear, etc. On top of that, New Light also comes with all of the strikes and all of the Crucible maps. So even if you never purchase anything in the game, you're still going to get access to all the same strikes and Crucible maps that everyone else is. On top of that, New Light starts you off in a slow progression system. I haven't actually tried it myself, but I've seen it done by a few people. Essentially, you go to Earth, you do a few things, you do the original first mission from Destiny 1, then you go to the tower, and you slowly unlock all the other destinations. Important to note, and we'll talk about this a little later, the moon is part of those destinations that's available, so that's kind of interesting, and we'll come back to that. So New Light is the way in for players. Full list of activities can be found on Bungie.net. I may put a link in the description below, but essentially it's all the planets, Vanguard strikes, Crucible maps, as well as Gambit, Reckoning, and actually I believe the Menagerie, which was last season's activity, will be included as well. Shadowkeep also released at the same time, which brought us our new location here on the moon, back from Destiny 1, but expanded. There's a lot of extra things. There's a whole campaign, new activities, as well as this season's Vex offensive activities, which we'll talk about a little bit more. On top of that, they added a new thing called a Seasons Pass. Maybe if you're familiar with other games like Apex Legends or Fortnite, it's basically a battle pass. Essentially what that is that there will be things that will be offered to you as you level up through the season. The bottom track is the paid track if you actually purchase the season, or you purchase the expansion that the season is in. It's a bit complicated. We'll talk about it soon. Then you get both the top and the bottom. But if you're a New Light, you're free to play, then you'll just get the top. And as you'll notice, there's fewer things in the top track, and they actually get fewer and fewer as you go through the season. You can actually see a full list of that about what is offered for free. We've got Festival of the Lost, it's kind of the Halloween event, Iron Banner, new Crucible maps, things like this. But to the Seasons Pass holders, exclusive ornaments, new exotics, and the Vex offensive activity. So that's a lot of new things that I'm not actually done, because technically they've revamped the armor system as well. Let me see if I can show you a good example. Does this work? Sure. So this is how armor used to work in Destiny 2. You'd get them, they'd have some stats, sure, you can pick some perks, you can throw a mod on there, you can infuse it to make it better. However, now the way it works is the stats are here, but there are no innate mods or perks associated with armor. You actually build it yourself by finding mods and stacking them on, adding capacity to add these mods, and infusing and adding power through it. So it's a little bit more flexible. There's a lot of good here and a lot of bad with everything that's going on. So let's get into the review.
In my nightmares, I see him still. I wonder if the light of Omar Aga still feeds the hive spawn.
All right, so for New Light, let's talk about why that's pretty awesome. So if you're a new player, if you're coming into Destiny 2, or maybe you've been out of it for a while, there is a lot of material here. This is almost the biggest game demo I've ever seen, if you think about it, because you're getting access to all of these destinations and a lot of activities within them. And if you're wanting to try it out, consider it, try it on a different platform, etc. If you are a very casual player, maybe you have some friends who really play this game, and you wouldn't mind doing a strike or playing some Gambit with them every once in a while, you can do that for free. And now that they've implemented cross save, you can do that on whatever platform you want. You can move over from PC, PlayStation, to the Xbox. It's all available. So New Light is a really great entry point, I think, for players that allow them a chance to test everything, see what they think, what they don't. Gives them a real chance to try it out before they commit to any kind of purchase. Now, when it comes to purchasing, there's a number of different things here. You may remember, if you've been following my channel for a while, that I suggested that Destiny should have something called a story codex. Essentially, I said that they should have something in the game that explains what expansions happened when, not only to make it more sense, narratively, but to actually give players a list. Maybe they jump in with New Light, then they get Shadowkeep because it's what's hot right now, and they're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Curse of Osiris? I need those guns. Or maybe that's a bad example. They're like, oh, Forsaken, okay. So they've actually added that right here, which is pretty great. In the store aspect, they show you, if you're New Light, you actually get these 3 campaigns here for free as part of New Light, and then Forsaken and Shadowkeep are expansions that you have to purchase. All of last year, they had something called the Annual Pass. Basically, it offered a bunch of items and activities relevant for Forsaken. If you get Forsaken, you get the entire Annual Pass, which is pretty great. If you get Shadowkeep, then you get the season that corresponds to when you purchase Shadowkeep. So what does that mean? That means if you buy Shadowkeep right now, or sometime in the next month or so, then you get the season of the Undying. Remember the season over here, the season's past, season of the Undying? Yeah. So you'll get that. If you, however, decide, maybe you'll wait. Maybe you're like, well, I'm going to save up, I'm going to get some money at Christmas or something, and you buy Shadowkeep in December. Well, midway through November, we're getting a new season of Destiny. I believe it's called Season of the Dawn. So at that point, if you bought Shadowkeep then, you would get Season of the Dawn, but not Season of the Undying, because they're changing the model. The way they had the Annual Pass last year was these things came into the game and they stayed in the game. Now they're putting in seasons with seasonal content, seasonal activities, and that will disappear at the end of the season. So, is that good or bad? Let's talk about the seasons next. So far, the season has been preliminary. We're only 1 week into it, so we've only really had a chance to barely scratch the surface. The new Vex Offensive activity is here. It's a new matchmaking activity. You can jump in, fight a bunch of Vex. You also find them spawning a little bit more throughout the moon, and you have to fight them off. In terms of what it is, it's very cool. The Vex showed up at the same time that the raid teams were going to fight the Vex on their, in the Black Garden. So what that means as a player is that even if you're not a raider, there's something for you to do relevant to the main story of the game. The gear is kind of fun, and what's nice, if you've been following Destiny for a while, is they actually gave the job of managing the gear and working toward it to Ikora Rey. She's a Vanguard leader. I was saying in a previous video that the Vanguard need more to do, and they've given her the job of doing it. And just like some of the other activities, you go to her, you give her some components you get for finding Vex. She says, okay, if you want a specific gun, you have to go do this stuff. You finish it off. It's great. So there's intentionality behind it. That's something that Destiny has lacked for a long time, is intentionality. But with things like the Lost Forges and the Vex Offensive, you know that you're making progress toward a gun. It may not have the role that you want, but at least it is the gun that you want. So the activity right now, it's fun. It's limited. The gear, it seems okay. There's some pretty good rolls that you can get on it, but there's only, like 8 weapons or something like that. So I'm really hoping that this this event rotates, that this event becomes more challenging, more interesting as the as the season unfolds. The other aspect of the season, of course, the one that most people are interested in, is this loot, the battle pass loot. So far, it seems interesting. Every time you get some XP bonus, you bump up, you get a bunch of things that you can claim and you can turn in. It's all very helpful. It's all very useful. Some XP bonuses and armor and everything like that. If you have the pass, you get a lot of things sooner. You get right here, you get the exclusive armor and the exotic weapon, whereas if you're free to play, you still have a chance to get it. Where is the gun? But you don't get the gun until rank 35, and you don't get the armor until... did it already pass? Yeah, you get a few pieces of armor every 5 or 10 levels or so. Continuing on that, something new that they've introduced is the artifact. I know it's a lot here, we're trying to go through it. Essentially the way it works is every time you play, as you're playing the game, as you're turning in bounties, as you're doing things, you're getting experience. As you get enough experience, you rank up. So the artifact does essentially two things. It adds to your power level, and it unlocks mods that you can use on your armor and your weapons. So as you're doing things, you're ranking up. The artifact increases in power, and that seasonal track I was giving you rewards you with something. As you get enough rank ups, you can purchase certain mods, and then you can place those mods on certain weapons. Actually, I don't think I can put them on any of the gear I have right now. Here's an example. So I can put this artifact mod on this weapon, and I can use it to help me in the seasonal activity. At the end of the season, this artifact is going away. So what that will do is any power gain that you got from the artifact will disappear. You'll drop back down. All the mods will disappear, and a new artifact will come in, which you'll have to level up. I think this is really cool. This is really fun. It's good for a couple of reasons. One, if you're struggling to raise your power level, you're just stuck on certain activities and things like that, then this gives you additionally, see a power bonus of +6. It gives you additional power that you can use. On top of that, it gives you mods that are interesting that you can add and enhance your build, and it helps you with, they're seasonally related. It would be pretty terrible if these mods were not really related at all to the season. But there's enough variety in here, especially in these last two columns, that it doesn't matter if you're doing non-seasonal content, you'll still be able to use these mods and enjoy them. But as much as, let's talk about now the potential negatives of the way the season works. So at the end of the season, the Vex offensive is going away. Bungie has described it as when the season ends. When the season ends, you will have stopped the activity, you will have stopped the invasion, etc., and the Vex will leave. A lot of people have expressed concern about this because there's a big fear of missing out in Destiny, and I think most of it can be pretty mitigated, but it's hard to justify that mitigation when it's in an event that literally will leave in 3 months. Some friends have put it, I pay for the content and now the content is gone. How does that exactly work? On the one hand, I agree. I think that is a big issue. The good news is that it does last for 3 months, so you have lots of time to experience it. But at the same time, I understand the frustration there. The other negative is that since it is content that will disappear at the end of the season, then they don't want to put in too much work or effort in establishing it, right? I mean, if you are making a quick snack, you don't put as much work as you do into a full meal, or, it's temporary. So it means that the experience is kind of limited. We don't exactly know, it's only the first week, but if this boss in here, if the encounters in here do not change or do not advance that much more, then I believe that many people will look at the seasonal activity and think, skippable, why? The gear itself is pretty cool. There we go. The gear itself is pretty cool. I enjoy how this works. You can see what you're working toward. They actually make bounties matter again. The best way to level up with all this stuff is to keep doing bounties. Now, I'm not sure if I can actually show you with Eris Morn. Let's take a look. Okay, so Eris Morn, Drifter, Vanguard, like Zavala, Ikora, and Shaxx. Many of the vendors in the game have additional bounties. Now, for Eris here, your reward is to get XP. So the way it works is you can do all the daily and weekly stuff, sure, but when you're done, if you have Glimmer, you can actually purchase a new bounty. It'll be random, and then you can do it. Now, from Eris, you get XP, which is good for your artifact, but from Zavala and Shaxx and others, you actually can get Bright Dust. So Bright Dust is the in-game currency that is used to buy things in the store. So they used to have something like this where you could, get a certain bounty from the Eververse, do a few things over the week, and earn Bright Dust. Now you can basically keep topping up. You can do you can buy as many bounties as you have Glimmer for. You can complete them. It's a slow build. It's only 10 Bright Dust per bounty completion, but some of the bounties are super easy. It's basically just kill 5 Guardians in the Crucible or something. It doesn't take long. So I like that system. And as you can see, I can access the Eververse store from anywhere, which is pretty cool. My only complaint really about how this aspect works is that I can't access those bounties from here. I have to go to the tower to actually access the bounties. And personally, it would be really nice if I could access the bounties from here, but if I wanted certain gear or if I got certain powerful rewards, then I'd have to go back. There's always this concern in Destiny about how much to put in the menu that you can access everywhere versus actually keeping the tower relevant, right? If you put too much in the inventory screen, then why would I ever have to go back to the tower?
Approach me slowly.
So, short version on the seasons. The activity is fun. It's a little limited. The gear is cool, but again, a little limited. There's a lot of intentionality of it, so I can see people grinding through this. It's good kind of brainless material right now. It's challenging because there's a lot of enemies, but it's not challenging mechanics-wise. So you can go in, you can farm for the role you want. It's a very straightforward progression toward it, so that's pretty great. Let's talk about Shadowkeep itself. Big review here. I'm going to try and move through it as quickly as I can. Campaign is short. That's the main thing that most people are going to tell you. The campaign is short. We were told it was like a Rise of Iron style size of campaign, not Forsaken, not Taken King, and it's true. I'm not going to reveal any details here but it's a short campaign. But I would argue that the story that actually does occur hits harder. I made a previous video about wanting the Vanguard to do more. They're stepping up in this expansion. The consequences of the story are not yet known to us, but they are setting up some really interesting things. And Destiny's always had a kind of a good and bad habit of having really cool narrative tangents, and then they never go anywhere. But it does certainly feel that things are moving. Something happens on the moon. It anchors the Vex. We know at the end of the season we're going to put the Vex to bed, and presumably the things that are happening on the moon are going to impact the rest of the year, and hopefully we're going to move forward into things. New activity associated with the expansion are these nightmare hunts. Essentially, you go and you fight versions of past enemies that we fought. This isn't really a spoiler. I don't think it's been revealed in pretty much every trailer. So you can fight Crota. You can fight the Fanatic. You can fight Omnigul. Pretty fun stuff. They introduced some new mechanics with them. They have certain shields that you can take out more effectively with mods and with different artifact things, and it's really fun to face against Crota again or Omnigul. And there's a bunch of different enemies throughout the campaign and other events, other activities that were just really, really cool to run against. On top of that, people may make the argument, well, we're just redoing old content. We're back on the moon again. We were on the moon in Destiny 1. What's the big deal? Well, first of all, the moon in here is a lot bigger. I believe this area here was the moon in Destiny 1, essentially. You start here, you work your way through Archer's Line, the Hellmouth, back toward Anchor of Light, and you're back. Great. So, they've added this section here. They've added a section over here. They've added a few things. The Lost Sectors themselves. The Lost Sectors in Destiny 2, Year 1, Year 2, they're simple, right? I mean, they're a small cave, you go in, whatever. Honestly, the Lost Sectors on the moon are huge. They're visually interesting. They really make the moon feel lived in. Feels like there's actually something there that you've uncovered. So very cool. Lost sectors aren't exactly the most replayable of activities, so it's really up to you what you're going to think about that. Continuing on the idea of narrative, the story, as I said, is short, but there's a lot of lore associated with it. So if that's something you're interested in, we've got, let's see, 2, I think it's like 6, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 or 7 lore books this season alone. So again, Destiny always has this habit of putting the story in the lore itself and not in the main game, but I will say that they do seem to be moving it forward. The lore is interesting. It seems a bit more directional. You can actually just go and get it. A lot of it you can just find in items around the area. And the way that they've developed the moon, by the way, this is a subtle point for people who are really interested in the story here. I've argued that the Dreaming City patrols were some of the best. They were patrols that are given to you by certain vendors, and some of them will give you lore. They'll say, hey, go scan this thing, and then they'll tell you the history of that thing. You get to do that again on the moon, and that's really nice. It makes the world feel more lived in, more immersive, and more haunted, actually, because some of the patrols that you get are literally given to you by phantoms. So that's pretty cool. I haven't done the raid yet, but from what I've seen all over Reddit, all over Discord, everything like that, Twitter, the raid people are saying is a lot of fun. Now, they say that it's a lot easier after day 1, once the contest modifier goes down. I mean, teams have already 3-manned it, and we've only been here a week. But from what I've seen, it's a very beautiful locale. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Very beautiful, very interesting. The mechanics go from kind of easy toward the beginning to maybe a little bit cumbersome and challenging toward the end. The loot itself, apparently all the armor and the weapons look great. The mods are pretty cool. We have the same usual issues with raids, which are they're difficult to get into, which is the point. Longevity with raids is a challenge, right? How do you keep a raid interesting from week to week? Some have hoped that Bungie is moving toward allowing certain gear or contest abilities to continue in the raids. That's not here yet. So, let's answer the 2 big questions here, because I've talked long enough. 1, should I get back into Destiny? Well, I think the answer is easy. I think that now is the easiest time to get into Destiny. With cross-save, you can go anywhere you want. So if you made an original account on the PC and you want to move to a different platform, or vice versa, you can just move your account. It's very easy. Bungie.net/cross-save. You click a few buttons, 5 minutes later you're done, you're loading it up. And it's very responsive. I loaded some things here on one console, I quit, I moved over to PC, loaded it up, all the progress was there. So you got to be aware of exactly how that works. Essentially, all of the stuff, all of the triumphs, and all of the things that you've collected will move over with you. Ooh, that's a cool shader. Anyway, all of that stuff will move over with you. What will not generally move over with you, hold on. What will not move over with you are the campaigns. So for example, if on your PC, with New Light, you get these 3, and then you have this, and then you move over to the PlayStation, for example, you won't have this. You have to purchase it again. Now this is changing a lot, but for now, it's tied basically to the platform. So you got to be aware of that. Again, New Light is really great. It's a great entry point. So if you're looking to get back into Destiny, or you haven't played in a really long time, then there's a lot to do. There's lots of activities. One of the downsides is that it's still confusing. New Light players come in, they're given a few missions to, go to the moon, go to Mars, etc. But after they do that, unfortunately, quests are still all out of order. They're just given to you, right? Like you're sitting here with your quest menu like this, completely stacked full, and you're just wondering, what do I do? Where do I go? What's the right order? And unless you notice to go into here and go, oh, okay, this is the correct order of events. I should do only quests associated with that or whatever. it's kind of a give and take because Bungie doesn't want you to feel constrained to those to that order. If you want to do Shadowkeep only, if you want to jump into Shadowkeep, then go back and do Forsaken, then do the Red War, you can do it in any order you want now. But that freedom creates confusion. So definitely make sure that you're checking out all the different places that you can learn more about Destiny: Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, etc. Should I buy Shadowkeep? That's the next question. The answer to that question is a question itself, which is, how much do you play Destiny? How much do you like Destiny? All in all, I would say that the Shadowkeep expansion is great. It's short, it's fun, it's interesting, the gameplay is great. Yeah, it's pretty well put together. I just realized I didn't talk about the new armor stuff. All right, we'll have a little bonus rant at the end, then we'll talk about the armor. So, should I buy Shadowkeep? Again, it comes down to how much do you like Destiny, how much do you play. If you are a casual-ish player, you don't play that much, honestly, you get a lot of bang for your buck with New Light. You can go to the moon as part of New Light. You can explore around the area. You can do all the new strikes. You can do all the new Crucible maps. You're still benefiting from most of the mechanics that are built into the game. What you can't do is you can't do the new activity, you can't do the campaign, you can't do the raid, and you can't do the seasonal activity. So that is what is limited to you. So if those things are worth it for you, then buy it. If they're not, then you can wait. I'm not going to be one to try and sell one way or the other. I'm just saying it's a good time to consider playing because you can actually try out a lot of the content. Maybe you try with New Light, you get to the moon, you're playing around. You're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, but I wish I could do more. I wish I could do the raid I keep hearing about. I wish I can get that loot. Then, sure, jump into it. And when you buy the expansion, you get the season that goes with it. So, 2 for 1, essentially. If you don't play a lot, then the seasonal content will be annoying to you because you have to play a lot in order to rank up to get the stuff. Now, it's generally pretty easy to do this. Even the most casual player can rank up, but it is a time sink. And if you don't have the time, then there you go. So, bottom line, easiest time to get back into Destiny with New Light. Should I buy Shadowkeep? Again, ask yourself, how much do I like the game? If you like Destiny, if you're going to continue playing, then definitely buy it. It's great content, great new activities, lots of new gear. The story is unfolding. I'm pretty excited about it. All right, let's talk about the one negative thing. The one complaint that I have about Shadowkeep, and then we'll wrap this video up. I don't even know how long it's been. Too long. Apologies for the freelance style, but I thought it best to do this quickly. The one thing I don't like about Shadowkeep is something called mod affinity. So let me show you what I'm talking about. With the new Armor 2.0, as they've called it, the way it works is every piece of armor you get... Let's see if I have a blank version on my character. Yeah, perfect. So, every piece of armor you get looks like this. It drops, it's got random stats, it's got a random power level, random amount of energy associated with it, and it's empty, essentially, right? So, the way it works is you have to have a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of, capacity on your armor to fill it up with different mods, right? So right now, I can only put something that's a maximum of 3 because I only have 3 energy on this armor, and you fill it up. Cool, great. It adds a lot of diversity. It adds a lot of builds. You can specify what you want. Now the only real randomness associated with armor, until this mod affinity that I talk about, mostly is the stats. You get stats you don't like, fine. Go do the activity again, get new armor, fine. You don't have to worry about the randomness of perks because it's not like, for example, exotics are still on the older system, at least last year's exotics are, so you may not have the perks that you really like. However, the downside, mod affinity. So let me give you an example. This is an arc piece, this is a void piece of armor. So there are general mods. If you look, it's grayed out. Here's a good one. If you look at this mod right here, it's just gray with white, number 5, that's how much energy it costs. But if you look at this one, it's got a void symbol on the top left. That means that you can only use this mod on void armor. Now, if that doesn't suddenly become clear as to why that's a negative, think about this scenario. When I thought about Armor 2.0, before I knew about mod affinity, I thought, this is great. I can get one armor set that I really like. I can spend my time getting the rolls, getting the stats that I want, and then I can go and I can get all the mods, and then I can just switch it up. Let's say I go into the Crucible with a sniper rifle. Boom. Put all my sniper rifle, stability, dexterity, reloading, scavenger, done. Oh, now I'm going to go in with a shotgun. Go over here, shotgun, 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 whatever. The problem is that if you want to look the way you want and play the way you want, it's actually impossible to do that with the same armor set. You could technically maybe almost do it because there are some of those generalist mods, the ones like this that don't have any mod affinity. They don't have the color associated with them, the damage type. But it's more expensive, and in some cases it's literally impossible. So for example, sniper rifles and hand cannons all of their mods are attributed to Void. Arc is for shotguns and a few other weapons, and I believe auto rifles and SMGs and fusions are solar. So if I want to look the way I want, if I want to always look like this Titan, but I want to be able to switch the mods that I want at any time to work with any piece of gear that I want in any activity, then I actually have to do this. I have to have 3 pieces of armor. One of Arc, one of Solar, one of Void, and then when I say, oh, well, I'm going to run shotguns now, then I'm going to have to go like this, and switch over to Arc, switch all my stuff, and then go in and make sure I've got my stuff set up as the way I want it. So you can see the difficulty here, right? You can see the annoyance. Instead of look the way you want and play the way you want, now it's look the way you want, play the way you want, as long as you are either comfortable wearing, mix and match trash armor that we've been doing for the past several years, or find multiple versions of them. And just because you have multiple versions of them doesn't mean you're going to have the stats that you want. I mean, look at how wildly these stats change. This is mobility on this one is 12, mobility on this one is 7, mobility on that one is 10. Mobility isn't the only stack, but it's an example. So I really, really don't like mod affinity. I think it's there to increase the grind. I think it's there. Let me just change this while I'm here. There we go. Yeah, I think it's there to increase the grind. I think it's there to make sure that, the endgame players don't just finish the game, get all the perfect things that they want. But my problem is there's a lot of randomness in this game, and there's a lot of things in New Light and Shadowkeep now that have directionality. You can go and get the guns you want. Maybe it doesn't have the roll you want, but you can still go get it. However, now, randomness of armor comes down to what element it is, what stats are on it, and what mods you've unlocked, because these are not every mod in the game. There are several others that I don't have, and they're not listed here. I have to look them up on Reddit or wherever. So personally, I would have favored if all the mods can be visible, but maybe grayed out or something if you actually don't have them unlocked, just so you know what you can farm for. I would have liked if I could put on any mod that is available for arms or specific pieces of gear, rather than having to farm 3 different versions. And I know what you're saying, you don't have to do that, and it's true. But honestly, last year I was wearing the most garbage loadout. I looked like a human dumpster because I was just picking armor based on the gear, based on the mods it had, and not based on the way it looked. And when you play Destiny a lot, the appearance of your Guardian is almost as important to you as how it plays, right? At a certain point, you get tired of looking like trash. You want the ability to play your way, and unfortunately, mod affinity is a negative. Now, I don't want to sound negative and finish the video on a negative, so let's recap. Mod affinity, little limited. It's advanced in terms of being able to do things you want. You can make all the builds you want. There's a lot of really cool builds that are going out there right now. Grenades really fast, super really fast, lots of cool stuff. The affinity is a bit annoying and limited. There are ways around it right now, and it's not the biggest deal except for the hardest core players anyway. It's a bit confusing to new players, but that's what Destiny is. It's a bit confusing to everyone. terms of the seasonal content, the artifact is pretty cool. I like it. I like the fact we're going to get stuff, and then if it gets too broken, then they can remove it. Puts us all back on a level playing field. Again, regarding the seasons, it's a little, for some, it's a little annoying that the event disappears after 3 months, but the event itself is small, and hopefully, you know, you can buy seasons one at a time, so you can basically evaluate whether or not you want to jump into a season. All the way up to the top of the map. Seasons Pass is interesting. I like it. I like that I can see what I'm working toward. I have directionality, and the UI design is great. It's pretty easy to deal with. Shadowkeep itself, really fun, really great. Like I said, if you're into this game at all, then the story is limited, but it hits pretty hard. There's a lot of new lore to discover. The raid is a lot of fun, so I've heard. The new nightmare hunts are interesting, really pushing you toward being a more formidable guardian. And if you're a bit more of a casual player, then now is a really good time to jump back into the game because of new light and the fact that you can play, 80% of the game and the destinations without having to spend a single cent. So, anyway, that's going to end the video for today. Apologies for the rambling feature of it, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on the moon. Either way, I'll see you in the next video.
The pyramid sits in
Bye now.
silence, but with so much